Look, Bangkok Coney Island penny machine.
Ice-cold Coca-Cola will be a mighty welcome sight when you return.
Yo, what's going on? On our way to New Jersey to check out a crazy sports memorabilia collection. Excited to see it. Let's check it out.
I grew up such a fan of sports memorabilia and sports cards, and I'm really excited that this show is both going to highlight that as well as the awesome entrepreneurs that make it all possible. Let's do it.
What's going on, everybody? We are currently on site in New Jersey here with my new friend Rich, and he's kind of going to show us around this incredible collection that you've built. How would you even begin to describe what this is?
I guess it's like coin-op, arcade, collectibles, a little bit of everything. I started when I was in my 20s, and it just sort of grew organically since then.
Well, I appreciate you agreeing to show us this. This is amazing.
You know, every collector likes showing their stuff off. If you don't, you're not really a collector.
All right, let's get into it.
Yeah, sure.
The Mets are the world champions.
So we have a bunch of baseballs here. I guess we might as well just go down the line. These are some team sign balls.
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I was a Met fan, sort of switched to the Yanks, which I know is unusual. But the first two balls are, and these are all balls that I had signed myself, so I know they're all, you know, legit.
Right.
The first one is the '69 Mets, which are signed by all the Mets who were alive. I went to an event in 1994, the '69 Mets, and then the '86 Mets. I went to an event maybe about 15 years after the '86 championship, and then after that are some pretty famous New York ball players.
Joe DiMaggio.
Yeah, Joe DiMaggio.
No big deal.
And then the three great center fielders of the '50s in New York. My favorite player of all time, Willie Mays, and then probably most Yankee fans' favorite player,
Right.
Mickey Mantle, which I actually played golf against Mickey to get that ball.
That's amazing.
At a par 3. And then last but not least from the Brooklyn Dodgers, Duke Snider.
Very, very cool. Which is your favorite out of these?
Well, I think they're all really cool.
We don't love
it's
picking
kind of hard to
favorites.
pick a favorite, but I think since Mays is my favorite player, I would say that's probably number one, but having played it and hit it inside Mickey at a par 3 to get him to sign the ball, I had to say that's 1A.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Steady, Joe, steady. Go.
So I know one of your favorite things are pinball machines, just from walking around here, but more importantly, just the second you get down the stairs, you realize that this is a custom Yankees machine that you did.
This is sort of a labor of love. I obviously love pinball machines. I played them as a kid. So this is a combination of pinball machines and the Yanks, who I love, and it's all custom made. All the artwork, I put it together with a friend in Massachusetts who does the work on this. And so all the artwork on it, we designed it together. We added the sound, we did the back glass, we even put a picture of my kids in Yankee Stadium. Everything was done from scratch. It's a great 1970s pinball machine, so it's fun to play, but it's soup to nuts. The artwork was done by me and the guy who actually did the work up in Massachusetts. It took close to a year to get done.
It took a year?
Yeah, it took a year from start to finish. And I didn't tell the kids I was doing it, and then brought it home and brought them down here and said, here it is.
Whoa!
Yeah, it was really cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about this is that you showed me you added the sound.
Yeah,
So-
these machines in the 1970s wouldn't have had sound. This is
Right.
before pinball machines did anything but have bells and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add a little sound but not overwhelm it. So I added 3 or 4 sounds which I can show you, which sort of capture the essence of the era of the Yankees that I love.
Yeah.
And it's on there. It's kind of cool.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to play too.
It's functional.
Oh no, everything I have is functional. Everything here in the house is designed to play the way it was when it was born. These are not pieces just to look at.
Right.
Everything here is to like play with and have fun with. Otherwise, I don't want it.
I like that. So can we play?
Sure, of course.
Number 2. What's gonna happen when you meet Smoking Joe? And I said, Joe's gonna come out smoking, and I ain't gonna be joking. I'll be pecking and a poking, pouring water on his smoking. Then this might shock and amaze you, but I will destroy Joe Frazier.
So I've been getting a little bit of a history lesson since we've been off camera in between takes, and I'd heard of the Ali versus Frazier fights, but I didn't even know who won.
It's really the greatest trilogy of fights, maybe of all time. Their first fight is considered the fight of the century. It was in 1971. I was 13 years old, and I've been a boxing fan my whole life. When I was a kid, Ali was on a show called Wide World of Sports. It seemed like every Saturday, but of course it wasn't. But he was fighting in the mid to early to mid 60s when I was a kid all the time. And Ali was a hero, always has been a hero of mine. So I was a big Ali guy, and obviously the first fight, he lost to Frazier in 15 rounds. It was a horrible night for me. But Ali and Frazier fought 3 times. The first time Frazier won by decision. The second time Ali won by decision. And the third time, which is called the Thriller in Manila, Frazier could not answer the bell, or his corner would not let him answer the bell for the 15th round. He was basically dead on his feet. Boxing was different then. It consumed the country. It doesn't anymore. And that was an offshoot from the way boxing was from the turn of the century through the 20s, 30s, 40s, even to the 50s and 60s, where guys were fighting out of poverty, different ethnic groups. It evolved into the 70s with South American and Central American fighters like Roberto Duran. And then boxing sort of lost its luster, and now MMA is taken over. So it's not the same, and I don't think it ever will be.
Right.
So the golden times of boxing really were the turn of the century, and probably the greatest times were the 40s through the 60s, and then culminating with Ali Frazier. After that, it really probably was never the same as it was. And I was really privileged to really see some amazing fights when I was a kid. Some of them in person.
The biggest fight I've ever even watched was Mayweather-Pacquiao, I guess.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, by the time they fought, both well,
they were old.
They were old. They were older. You know, in the heyday of boxing, even when I was a kid, these guys were fighting each other in their primes. And actually, when Ali fought Frazier, he had been off for 4 or 5 years. His prime was 5 or 6 years earlier than that, and he still was a great fighter.
Right.
So, you know, when you had some of those other fights, these guys were fighting each other at their best, and there wasn't all these ABC organizations they have now with 3 heavyweight champions and 5 welterweight champions. There was one champion.
43 world champions.
Exactly. There was one champion in each division. Everybody knew who they were. It was a much different game. It was so exciting. Even me as a fight fan, I don't really get up for very many fights anymore.
We do have the 2 from the classics.
This means a lot to me. This is one glove signed by each of the greatest fighters of all. 2 of the greatest fighters of all time. This one is signed by Muhammad Ali, and this one is signed by Joe Frazier. So this is like something I would never, ever give up. It means the world. I mean, I just look at it and I'm like, I get the chills thinking that these 2 guys put pen to these gloves, Everlast gloves, and one signed by Muhammad and one signed by Joe.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me. Just amazing to me. They just had the 3 most unbelievable fights, especially the last one, which was a war. Both of them were never the same after the 3rd fight. They were just beat each other to a pulp.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Both of them were just devastated after the fight. Ali actually said that it was the closest to death he ever came in the ring after that fight, and he won.
That's scary.
Yeah, and he won.
That's scary.
Yeah, Frazier wanted to come out of his corner, but his corner wouldn't let him for the 15th round. They stopped him.
I would have stopped a bunch of rounds before that.
Yeah,
so
it was all heart on both of them.
Yeah,
it was all heart on both of them. They fought 44 rounds, and 44 rounds that were brutal over their careers against each other.
Wow.
Brutal.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Next up is a boxing machine from 1948. It's got some really big names on it. Let's check it out.
They're slugging it out in the middle of the ring. And there's a hard right to the jaw. And Blue Bomber's block is knocked off.
It's just part of the action with the world's only boxing robots, the Rock'em Sock'em robots.
So here's the machine. What exactly do we have?
So
here?
this would have been in penny arcades. This machine's from 1948. It's called Silver Gloves, and it's kind of like if kids see the Rock'em Sock'em robots, which are still popular. You put a nickel in, which we'll do in a second. Some bells will go off. The boxers will come up against each other, and they hit each other. And if every time you hit somebody in the chin, the boxer will go down. Sometimes they hit each other at the same time. They both go down, and the knockdowns will register via a little arrow, and it lists the heavyweight champions starting in 1882 with John Sullivan, going through some famous guys including Gene Tunney, Max Schmeling, going on to Max Baer, James Braddock, who was a Cinderella Man, and of course he was then beaten by Joe Louis. And since the machine, it lists the years they were champion, and since the machine was made in 1948, Louis became champion in 37, and the machine was made in 48. And since it wasn't known when Louis was going to lose, there's a question mark.
That's great.
In 1937.
Almost 100 years ago.
Exactly. Exactly. So if you want, we can put a nickel in and get it going.
Let's do it. You got me. Got him. What happens when you get knocked out?
It just registers.
Robinson waits. Here comes the pitch, and there goes a line drive to left field. Swan is after it. He leaps. It's over his head against the wall. Here comes Gilliam scoring. Oakland wins.
So we weren't even going to talk about this, but you've Jackie Robinson's actual business card.
Yeah, I had helped a friend find a machine, and as I'm walking out of his house, he said, "Rich, I've got something pretty special for you." I'm like, "Okay." And he hands me this, and I looked at it. I'm like, "Is that real?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Someone gave it to me, and I want to give it to you." And it's Jackie Robinson's business card that he had in his post-baseball career, and it's dead nuts real. I mean,
Yeah.
and, it's just cool. I just, I keep it by my desk. Jackie Robinson's a personal hero of mine, always has been, and it's got 111 West 125th Street, New York, with a phone number, University 58600, and Jackie's card with a little baseball bat and a ball, and
Yeah, I mean,
Jackie's card, man.
Pretty amazing, because
Yeah.
I'm like such a fan of these guys as like businessmen post-career.
Yeah.
That for a legend like this, it's just the coolest thing
I
ever.
know Jackie Robinson did some consulting. I believe he worked for a company. There was an old coffee company in New York called Chock full of Nuts. I think he worked for them, and he had a pretty good, successful business career, but unfortunately died pretty young.
Yeah.
But he's a legend, and for me, he's a hero.
No, that's one of the coolest
I'm
things
really-
I think you have.
I'm really happy to have it. Yeah, it's prominent for me. I look at it every day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then we were going to talk about this. What
Sure.
exactly-
That's when I was a kid. Also, we called them 5 and 10s or candy stores. Every candy store would sell baseball cards in packs, but they would also always try to find a way to take your money, and which is a common theme in vending and coin-op business. And in this machine, they would, for 2 cents, you would get a piece of gum and maybe even a baseball charm, but you would also get a baseball card. So if you put your 2 cents in here, you turn the metal lever, and out would come a baseball card, piece of gum, and if you were lucky, you would get a metal charm.
Yeah.
And also maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I had found a old wooden baseball card vendor from a company that operated an arcade in Coney Island. Their family had operated from the late 1800s through the 1950s, and they had sold me a baseball card vendor from the early 1950s, and when I got it home, I just opened it, and to my unbelievable surprise, there were over 400 original exhibit supply baseball cards that were never touched from 1953. We were able to date them because it had the pennant winners, which were the Brooklyn Dodgers, and the World Series winners.
What is the exhibit?
Exhibit Supply was another baseball card company, not as famous as Topps or the other baseball card companies of the day. They were really the cheaper cards.
Got it.
So they're not as valuable or as famous. But it was a really cool machine, wooden machine that sat on a base, and just a cool look to it. But the coolest part of it was opening up. It was like a time capsule.
That's insane.
The cards were untouched. And I kept some, I sold some, And it was just an amazing. It's like some of that's the fun of collecting. Is sometimes the hunt is really more fun than sometimes than owning the stuff. A true collector will tell you that finding the things is really a lot more fun than actually having the thing sometimes. So much stuff has gone through my hands over the years, and people are like, how'd you get rid of it? I'm like, I can't keep everything. And sometimes I actually enjoy seeing people love the stuff that I'm able to help them get.
Seeing other people have that discovery.
Yeah, and even like people will call me and they'll say, oh, I still have that, that machine that you got me, or I still have that whatever that you got me. I'm like, and that really, for me, is like great. I love it.
Because like the way I look at it is like, think about whatever means the most to you. The thing that doesn't mean the most to you might mean what that other thing means to you or someone else.
Absolutely, yeah. The stuff that means the most to me might mean like the stuff my kids played when they were little. I could picture them in front of the machine when they had to stand on a chair to play. Like even though that machine may be worth $300, it's worth $1 million to me.
Right.
So it's not the monetary value; it's the emotional attachment or the attachment of a little kid in front of it. So you can't. Like I said, I think I told you earlier, I don't measure the machines as to, what a book says they're worth or what somebody tells me they're worth. Of course, I have to when I'm selling them, if I'm buying and selling them or trying to buy them. But as far as my collection, I don't measure it that way. I measure it to what it means to me here. And I think in the long run, that actually goes to your benefit a lot more. At the end of the day, that actually ends up serving you better.
Yeah.
And for me, it's always after 40 years of doing this, I've come to the realization that that's really the best way to do it.
And you said to me earlier, like if you're in the collecting space for money, you're not actually in it.
No, and again, that's another thing that I found, that if you're in the space for money, you're not going to last long, because you're going to find that you get bored, and you're going to find that you become sort of caustic about it, and you really become somebody that it's not much fun for you anymore. For me, I've never lost my enjoyment of it. And it's really 40 years. I started in my early 20s. I'll be 62 in April.
Yeah.
And I've never lost really my passion for it. And I don't think I ever will. I think my wife wants to kill me. She wishes I would have collected postage stamps instead of these heavy machines I'm lugging around. But, it is what it is.
I feel you on that.
Yeah, I love them. Yeah. So it's fun for me, and for me, it's as much fun to go to a house or a garage and start looking through old, dirty machines as it is for somebody else to buy a diamond.
I'm with you.
It is what it is.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, reporting back from the 1960s right here. Just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for checking out episode 2 of Talking Shop, and it's been, as you can tell, a very, very special thing for me, and I hope a very, very special thing for you to be able to see this awesome collection from our new friend. So thank you to him again, and that's it from New Jersey. So without any further ado, make sure you've subscribed, make sure you've liked, and let us know in the comment section what you want to see more of, because we'll listen and we'll do it. So without any further ado,